Over the past 2 or 3 years, certain events from 2023 have been repeatedly brought up against me in an effort to paint me as an irredeemable monster. I've made multiple attempts over the years to address it properly and give clarifications on the matter. But with newer claims coming to light and a clearer perspective of the situation nowadays, I think laying out everything in one final video will make it a lot easier to follow and understand. I'm not here to play the victim, and I'm definitely not here to act like some villain either. This video is just to explain my perspective and experiences, provide important context, and take accountability for the things I actually did wrong. However, I will also explain why I believe many of these claims weren't coming from a place of real concern, but rather from an intent to deliberately tear apart my friend group and my community out of spite. There will be 2 major parts to this video. One major part will be to give the full story from my perspective, as in how it happened, and the second part will be to respond to the accusations and claims laid on me, as well as statements from both my girlfriend and a friend of mine, both of who were involved in the situation in one way or another. This video took quite some time to put together because I wanted to make sure it fully addressed everything relevant as best as it could, while also providing as much evidence as I can to explain and back up my side of things. Now, some screenshots show Cinna's original username because I took them before her account was deleted, while others show deleted user because I took them after her account was deleted. Keep in mind that this video discusses situations and allegations that some people may find disturbing or triggering. Viewer discretion is advised, and if you're sensitive to the topic shown on screen, I recommend you click off this video. With all of this being said, let's begin. In early 2023, when I was 17 years old, I was pretty active in the mock government's community, which revolved around Discord servers being run like countries. On some sort of UN-like server for mock govs, on March 21st of that year, I became friends with a girl known as Cinnamon Cyberfox. We would sometimes voice chat on her server, and nothing sketchy or out of the ordinary was going on. However, she told me how her ex broke up with her and how it affected her a lot. I was there to show support and obviously tried to cheer her up, like a good friend would. And as time went on, we became closer, and we were pretty good friends. However, on the 10th of April, out of nowhere, she confessed her feelings towards me. Can I tell you something? Sure. When I get offline for the night, I can't get you out of my head. My heart starts racing when I think about you. Oh. I'm sorry if that was sudden. I immediately told her how the age difference was concerning and would cause issues not only for her, but for me as well. It's okay, don't worry. One thing though I gotta ask, by the way. Sure. As I am 17, turning 18 in September, and you are 14, wouldn't it be a bit risky? Like, some could try framing me as a groomer and such. I worry about that too. She then goes on to suggest the idea of hiding the age gap. Something I was against because it felt wrong and dishonest. I guess we could try to hide the gap. Attempting to justify it might make it look worse. I tell her how I have concerns about the age gap and do not believe we would be safe to be together, but that I also care about her and don't want to make her upset. I then go on to explain how the age difference is problematic because I would become an adult in September of that same year. Given that this was too risky, I rejected the advances and suggested for both of us to consider each other like siblings instead. I may have an idea, like a compromise. While we cannot be in a relationship, of course, if you want, you can be like my little sister in a way. As in, we will try and actually consider ourselves like siblings. Does that sound like a good compromise? The idea of something that's almost a relationship, but not quite, sounds kinda heartbreaking. So close, yet so far. I don't want to make you sad though. Following this, she goes on to say how she felt a hole in her heart ever since her ex left her, and how it could be exactly what she needs to feel whole again. She then goes on to say how she would be old enough to consent next year, and says how, if we are still friends by then, we could maybe see about dating. Keep in mind, I was still against the idea of us dating because of the age difference, something which I tried to say many times in the same conversation. One could argue that my messages weren't too direct about the issue, but this was simply because I didn't want to upset her. I'm not someone who wants to hurt others, and despite the fact I give a lot of importance to open communication, you can all understand why I would struggle in that situation. I saw her as a good friend at the time and did not want to make her upset by saying anything that would seem too harsh or brutal. She then goes on to say how she wants virtual cuddles to feel better, but that it would make it worse because she really wants non-platonic cuddles. I then tell her that I would be okay giving her affection as long as it is not sexual. But instead of directly responding to that, she directly asked if 16 is old enough to consent in France. Eventually, we switched topic and we just voice chatted to talk about other stuff. The days would pass by and everything seemed normal. But on the 13th, she would bring up the dating thing again. This time saying that we might not technically be a couple, but to me, it kinda feels like we are. She then goes on to say how she cannot get me out of her head and even says how she had a dream about me. All of this seems pretty normal so far, but then she says the following 2 messages. To me, it kinda feels like we're secret lovers. I sorta consider us secret lovers. No one but us knows about our love. In retrospect, this clearly shows she was trying to coerce the idea of dating onto me, by calling us secret lovers despite me not agreeing in the slightest. And then, she goes on to say this. As much as this hurts, I know it would hurt much worse if an enemy of yours found out about it and called the cops on you and you ended up in jail. I would not be able to cope with the guilt. I would probably end up killing myself or wanting to do so. Keep in mind that even though this message says, I know it would hurt me more if an enemy of yours found out and called the cops on you, she still connects her suicidal thoughts to the guilt she would feel if I ended up in jail because of it. That guilt-suicide link, even if indirect, played on my emotions by indirectly hinting that she loves me, because she would feel guilty and suicidal if I were in jail. This constant confusion seriously messed with my mind, which was going all places at that point. On one end, she was constantly trying to persuade me into the relationship while being quite manipulative, yet would go on about backing down or waiting until next year. This felt so contradictory and confusing, and you can understand why my mind couldn't keep up. And then, a few messages come in. You're one of the kindest person I've met, you know. I would have to say the same of you. You give me such amazing vibes. I don't mean this platonically when I say this. I know that. I love you, and nothing can change that. I know, don't worry. The fact that we can't date makes me want to cry. Don't cry, please. It kind of feels like we're secret lovers, to be honest. Do you feel the same way? At that point, I felt stuck, and just didn't know what to do anymore. And eventually, things built up so much that I finally fell to her manipulation and accepted. However, I told her it could only go forward if both of our parents knew about it and gave their approval. I then went ahead and asked Cinna to give her mum my Facebook in order to talk with her. This is how the conversation went. Greetings, I've been told that you wish to speak to me. This is my actual profile. I understand if you may be busy right now though, so feel free to message me back once you're available. Hi. Said you would like to talk to me? Yes, that is correct. Apologies for the late answer. Time zones are a bit odd. So yes, I presume she may have already explained a bit as to what is going on in a way. I think I understand the two of you would like to date online, but you're concerned because of the age differences and getting into trouble with the law when you turn 18 later this year. Yes, that is correct. I also don't want her to get any harassment. Myself, I know what harassment can be like, and I don't want her to be in any danger. Some people are just insane online. But yes, this is due to the fact that I also live in France, in the Grand Est region, to be precise, and lives in I also checked, Romeo and Juliet laws don't apply there. But I also see that she really cares about me a lot, and she seems quite upset by the fact of that. So I'm not sure what to do. Because on one side, I don't want to make her upset in any way, and I care about her a lot too, but I don't want both of us to fall under controversy, or even fall under any legal troubles. I am okay with you two dating. I appreciate you caring about her online reputation and worrying about harassment for both of you. Could the two of you keep it secret from others on Discord if you choose to date? Then there shouldn't be any problems. I want to make it clear, however, that even though I was persuaded and, in many ways, coerced into the relationship, that doesn't change the fact that I still chose to say yes and go along with it, and that is something I shouldn't have done. Looking back now, I see how wrong it was, especially because of the age difference, and this is something I own up to completely. While she already spoke about her ex's age, not much was discussed about it for a few days. On the 19th of April, however, during a voice chat, she told me by text how I respect her boundaries more than her ex ever did. Following that, I asked her about it, and she then showed me screenshots with her ex named Mexi, and went on about how she was treated by him. Now, I'm not going to show every single screenshot because it could be its own video of how much there is, so I'll keep it brief on the things he did to her. Forcing her to grow her breasts, while also comparing it to his family members for some reason. Originally says he's 17 but goes on to claim he's 15 conveniently after Cinna refused to ERP with him. And keep in mind that while there are methods to estimate an age medically, they are not fully precise, and the fact he claims to be 15 right after Cinna refused to ERP with him is very suspicious and should be a massive red flag to anyone out there. Threatening to cheat just to get intercourse with somebody, forcing her to send nudes when she clearly said multiple times she was against it, got his brother to manipulate Cinna to be with him, which I don't even know if he is actually Mexi's brother or not, same brother who openly said to Cinna that Mexi had her nude saved, which, for the record, Cinna was still 13 or 14 at the time, liking rape and even threatening to rape Cinna after discussing virginity with her, then goes on to make manipulative threats regarding Lavin, a person who I will get back to later in this video by the way. Obviously there's a lot more, but you get the point, the guy's a complete nunce. After being told all of this, I could easily see that she was groomed by Mexi, and that his age wasn't consistent, as it would constantly go back and forth and tons of red flags would pop up. I then told her to tell her parents about this, and told her to warn people, things that she did fairly quickly, and Mexi would go on to harass her afterwards. I didn't do much on my end, but I do recall warning his hospital about him, and researching his info to transfer to authorities. Now obviously, I'm not going to go ahead and claim that he wasn't hospitalized for leukemia. However, it doesn't excuse his actions towards Cinna and the things I'll explain later on in this video. Throughout the early stages of the relationship, there wouldn't be any sort of conflict, as this was still under a honeymoon period. Cinna did, however, start showing sexual interest in me, and as a result of the emotional bond that formed between us, those sexual interests and interactions went both ways. I will obviously not go into all of the details, but at the time, I thought that this was okay for the most part given that both of our parents had agreed to the relationship. Obviously though, with hindsight, it is clear now that it was not okay and that nothing sexual should have actually occurred. She would constantly talk about the idea of us having sex, to which her parents refused. She had a meltdown and even said she wanted to buy contraceptives behind their backs. Her aggressive tone was starting to scare me, and I was constantly asking her to stop being aggressive, but she only doubled down as it went on. She was then told to make a final task document, as she was homeschooled, titled, Pros and Cons of Young Teen Sex. I'm not going to comment too much on this, but just so you all know, she was the one writing all of this, not me. I also think it's relevant to mention that when it came to her ex, she was the one who initially brought up sexual topics first, and that she was at fault for agreeing to ERP with him. Around that same time, me and her agreed that for the 3D model of her character, as it was difficult to make the character's body, I would use her actual body as a reference for anatomy purposes. While I was still 17 at the time this occurred and it was not to be sexual or to make CSAM, especially as I would put clothes later on, this obviously doesn't excuse it, nor does it justify it. And since then, I have deleted the files of the model. I obviously see why this was wrong now and learn better. This is obviously something that you can all hold me accountable for. I obviously cannot show the unclothed version as this would get this video taken down, but here are some screenshots of the model with clothes on to prove that this was in fact anatomy learning and not for CSAM creation. As time passed by in the relationship, her constant sexual advances and the essay she had to write had an influence in how I viewed certain things, notably the age of consent laws, something that I talked to friends about with a nuanced consensual laws. If I said not to tell others at the time, it was because I didn't want to be harassed for that opinion, as many would find it disgusting and controversial, and rightfully so, because while my views were heavily twisted and warped by Cinna's influence, it does not disregard the fact that this opinion was wrong and immoral, and I should make this clear that I do not believe in those views anymore. Obviously, there's no excuse for this, even though once again, Cinna twisted and influenced my opinions on a lot of things. Around early July though was when it became quite excessive on her part. For starters, she was constantly sexual towards me in public, which was something I was against because I felt very uncomfortable with it. And others did as well, yet she kept on going, doubling down every single time. Even when a friend confronted her, she tried to excuse it as really bad hormones. She once even showed in the general chat a picture of my character with a dildo on it, which I told her to delete, but she tried to insist on it. Keep in mind that it would sometimes get so bad to the point that I had to tell her mum about said behavior. But to no one's surprise, that did absolutely nothing. Around June, it was decided that I would leave school to try to find a job directly. I was clearly not doing well in the course I was taking, and it was becoming more and more evident that I couldn't focus as much. After her trip to Alaska with her mum, Cinna would essentially start emotionally abusing me and being heavily controlling, both from an emotional standpoint and quite literally. One example is how she would often ask for alone time and space, sometimes even numerous days in a row. I would be pretty upset by it given that I cared for her and I felt pretty lonely because of it, since I had no one to talk to. On July 26, however, when I tried to get her attention excessively, she started to give me some rude lecture despite me telling her I would give her space. She was prone to shouting at me and disrespecting me, using degrading language that would make me feel upset and have meltdowns. On July 31st, I wanted to discuss with her about the conflicts that were constantly occurring, since I wanted them to be resolved. I then asked her and she agreed, but then, later in the day, she refused, saying that she would go outside to enjoy the sun. I asked if she would afterwards, she said no. This causes me to get mad and to lash out at her, saying that I shouldn't be the one to always put efforts while she doesn't. This prompted her to say how she could raise her voice but that she doesn't have time for bullshit. She then said she was giving me a vacation, for me to enjoy it, and blocked me on Discord and WhatsApp. I panicked and was very upset by it, and then wrote an apology to her. That is when she unblocked me and admitted that she only did it to see my reaction. I was obviously pretty upset by this and it felt very harsh that she would do this just to see my reaction. Especially as I feel like I had valid reasons to be mad as I was constantly led on. She also went on to claim that I acted like a child. In August, however, things blew out the most, and it's when I started being more firm with her as she was becoming harsher over time. On August 6th, when she would constantly post NSFW messages, one of the moderators would delete her messages. This would cause her to completely lose it despite me telling everyone to calm down. She went on to insult someone for being an age regressor due to their trauma and nicknamed them very inappropriate things, as shown on screen. On August 7th, Cinna would constantly call me emotionally immature, childish, and belittling me every so often. One time, she even said something along the lines of, Honestly, I think you deserve to be upset. Pain can be a good teacher, something that really hurt me. It was also around the time she went to talk in sexual manners to other people behind my back, which in retrospect, kinda feels like she was cheating on me. This wasn't the first time it occurred, however, as she ERP'd with somebody else behind my back before. Things got quite overwhelming and I brought up something on her server, causing her to be extremely angry at me. It gets resolved, and we move on. On that same day, however, a server member was considered annoying by her, and she would try to force him to be banned. Many people opposed this at the time. When I unbanned the member, she decided to go on and ban him again. Eventually, I had enough and took away her admin permissions. After taking away her admin permissions, she goes on to lash out on my DMs, going as far as to even say that the member could go kill themselves and that she hopes they do. Because this was going too far and I felt like she was crossing the line, I threatened to tell her mum if she didn't stop her behavior. This followed by her threatening to break up with me. Cinna would start being more aggressive and making threads in the general chat. This would go back and forth even more until I locked down the chat. Following this, I decided to ignore her, and it bites harder, as she essentially tried to blackmail me, saying that if I did not ban said member, that she would leave me. Obviously, given this, it basically worked through and I kept the member banned, despite me not wanting to do so in my head. I asked her to give me some space, to which she went on to be rude towards me for it. Following that, I had a chat with her when she was more calm, to which she said how she realized what she did and how she was sorry. I then go on to elaborate how despite her criticism on me, we are quite similar on some things. She goes on to say how she was blinded by anger and says how she didn't realize she was being horrible. Around the same time, she was constantly talking sexually about Pokemons in my community, and kept on going with sexual jokes in public. I was constantly trying to tell her why it made others uncomfortable, but again, it felt like none of what I said went through. This was also around the same time that Moustache retired as Keykeeper and instead transferred his powers to Red Kitsune, his designated successor at the time. But one of the worst things that Cinna has done, however, was publicly talking about drugging someone to sleep and using, quoting by her own words, a milking machine for males, and essentially describing how she would sexually assault someone. Obviously, I had to tell her this was wrong and that this kind of behavior put the community at risk and herself at risk, but once again, in vain, because she simply wouldn't listen. A day later, I was also informed she tried to be sexual to someone else, but it shouldn't be a surprise at this point because she did this to many people. On August 30th, she made a sexual meme about Red Kitsune without his consent. This caused him to be quite angry about the situation, and rightfully so, because he did not want his character to be associated with anything sexual. That same day, Cinna went on to troll and purposefully violate the rules, to which I tried to control, but failed. As the conversation went on, I got more frustrated, to which Cinna would tell me to stop having tantrums in public. This led to Red Kitsune insulting Cinna, Cinna insulting Red Kitsune, and it went back and forth until I decided to ban both of them to calm things down. However, just as I did so, Cinna would go ahead and insult me for doing so, and even went on to threaten me. Following this heated argument, eventually things calmed down, but Red Kitsune was still banned at the time. Following this, every day would be drawn out by conflict one after the next. The same cycle would go on. I try and talk to her, she asks not to speak to her and give her space, claims she doesn't love me anymore in order to guilt trip me, I get upset, try to reach out repeatedly, she gets mad, insults me, and eventually things calm down. On September 4th, I felt quite ill, as I had a stomach ache that was quite bad. Due to this, I wanted Cinna to comfort me, but in the group chat with a few friends on WhatsApp at the time, she instead was quite dismissive, saying that she could deal with her own physical pain. As a result, I left the group chat. She didn't like that, however, and instead added me back in, telling me not to chicken out from this, and that she could literally not care less about my fucking stomachache. Obviously, this hurt me quite a lot, as I felt that I was getting shamed for needing comfort. We discussed it in DMs, but she didn't seem to care that much. She then asked for me to not talk to her, which I was upset by because I still felt quite ill and she was the only one who I felt could comfort me at the time. As a result, I attempted to repeatedly reach out to her, as she wasn't responding for hours at all. I eventually felt bad and wrote a poem to her as a way of saying sorry. I felt guilty for essentially spamming her after she told me not to talk to her. In my mind, however, I was just very hurt and couldn't understand why she would keep ignoring me like this. This caused her to get really mad at me and snap on Discord. I kept trying to apologize, saying that I was frustrated and that I regretted what I did, but she wouldn't listen. She would instead keep on lashing out at me. After this, she went on to fully yell at me and then insult me, saying she wouldn't apologize and that it was my fault. She then said she wouldn't talk to me for a week. After some time though, things settled and she apologized, whereas I apologized as well. As days passed by, she would keep trying to break the filter in place to say inappropriate things in my server. Despite me telling her every now and then to stop, she would keep doubling down. On September 7th, however, I muted Cinna in my community due to drama. At the same time, I then considered myself acting president of her server in order to run it. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but Cinna got mad and removed my perms as a result. It gets worse when Cinna basically blackmailed me, saying that I could either choose between keeping ties with her or keeping her muted. Time passed by, and then Cinna randomly mentioned wanting to go to a Thai place due to graffiti saying it supported trans hate. I obviously saw this as direct transphobia and told her to stop, but she went on WhatsApp to literally insult trans people with a slur, which prompted me to have a meltdown given everything piled up. The next day, however, on September 8th, things rapidly degenerated when I clearly wanted her to stop saying inappropriate things in public, to which she responded with more public shaming and insulting others. After taking away her perms, she went on to insult me in DMs and WhatsApp for it. I ignore her for some time and decide to let her mother know in the group chat, to which she asked me to delete them, even going as far as threatening me for it. I decide to ignore her, to which she decides to spam my DMs begging me to come back. She then tries to do some weird remarks about a knife and neck for some reason, but this time, I decided to be less tolerant and ask her instead to answer me. This follows with her attempting to guilt trip me, to which again, I didn't flinch, because I knew she was trying to guilt trip me and playing with my emotions. Some time passes by, and I ask her again if she realized what she said earlier, to which she tries to make some ERP message, which I didn't consent to and told her I wasn't in the mood at the time. I tried to explain to her how what she's doing is wrong, but she simply refused to listen. Around 20 minutes later, she sent a message, "Kill me," to which I said I wouldn't, asking her if she thought of her actions. I then asked her again if she was sorry for what she did. It followed by her begging for me to come back, and I told her how she should first apologize to me if she wanted me to talk to her. She then threatens to hurt herself over this. Again, I still remained on the main focus topic, her insulting me and shaming me in the server. As the conversation goes on, she then goes on to say that she is a parasite. I then try to give an explanation as to why she did the things she did, but she then goes on to threaten to end her life, something that alarmed me quite a lot at the time. With hindsight though, it is clear that she was trying to guilt trip me to feel bad, in a way to distract me from her actions. As the conversation went on, she openly admitted to me that she was manipulating me. Then came September 19th, my birthday, and I wanted to voice chat with her to celebrate my birthday. However, she refused, so I asked her if she would want to later, to which she agreed. But after asking again around an hour after, she again refused, saying that the more I begged, the less she would want to. I explained how I most likely wouldn't be able to later in the day as we would celebrate my birthday, but in vain. Following a disagreement later in the night, she claimed how I was nagging her in the most minor shit. The conversation went back and forth, and as I got more upset, she told me to dry my tears and that maybe she would consider voice chatting, saying she only had 10 minutes left. As I didn't join, she then sent, "Have fun on your own." Part of the disagreement was when I suggested she tried sleeping without clothes on, as I believed it could help her and could be more healthy, which she was annoyed about as I brought it up quite often, which is something that I should not have done. This caused me to send a long message calling her hypocritical and saying how she constantly tried to gaslight me as if I was always in the wrong, and how I didn't like how she initially agrees on something but jumps out at the last second. While I don't have any screenshots of what happened and I don't fully remember all of the details, she was absolutely cruel to me on that day and disregarding my emotions. The fact she made me cry on my birthday really hurt me. A few days later, on September 21st, she went on to try and force me to ERP. I clearly indicated I was not consenting at the time, and she even went on to guilt trip me as well. Upon realizing it, she claimed she felt disgust at trying to rape me. Obviously, all of this was quite concerning and it left quite a bad impression on that day. Eventually, the parents would refuse for me to come over due to all of the sexual talk. Because Cinna desperately wanted it in May, and that her parents asked her to make an essay at the time, I went ahead and tried to give arguments to them, using sources, and talking to friends about this. Concerns would go back and forth, and looking back, obviously I should have sat back. While yes, Cinna may have pushed those initial sexual advances, sometimes in very extreme ways, it doesn't exonerate the fact that I shouldn't have tried to convince them about this, nor try to persist on it. I completely understand why this was seen as creepy to do. Again, there's no excuse for any of this, and I take full accountability for going on about these. Moving on, this would lead up to them refusing to talk on the subject further, and Cinna claimed that she no longer had this desire, which was odd given she was the one who was mad about them not accepting back in May and wanted to use contraceptives behind their back. On September 28th, however, an argument occurred which led to Cinna breaking up with me and blocking me. This was because I no longer wanted her to be unfair, which got her mad and got her to block me. We must go our separate ways now. Goodbye. Do not attempt to contact me again and don't do anything funny. At the time, due to the emotional attachment, I felt upset and kept trying to reach out to her. This backfired as she would start accusing me of things, which prompted me to release an announcement in my community to expose some of her behavior. Following this, I felt very mentally unstable, because on one hand, I lost a person who I believed quote-unquote loved me, and on the other, I felt completely isolated in real life. Partly because I also left school a few months prior, as I felt like it would be better to find a job directly. Now I just want to say, this decision was partially influenced by because I kept having to focus on her and lost track of school, which made my grades drop. Leaving school was something she encouraged as well. Due to everything that was going on, I genuinely considered suicidal thoughts. I made a live stream about it, essentially explaining my frustration. Obviously, this was taken down by YouTube themselves, and I got an email from YouTube saying how concerns were given by viewers. At the time, Lavin, who was still friends with me, decided to alert my mother, telling her I considered suicide, which prompted my parents to contact my neuropsychologist and educator to come home. It was good they did, because yes, I was very close to actually ending it all at the time. As time went on, because her parents told her I was manipulative, which is fairly ironic given what I presented, I started to believe that her parents manipulated her and abusing her, prompting me to make a group chat with several people in order to save Cinna. This would be in ways such as trying to reach out to her with many emails and alts, contacting her therapist, and her parents. In that group chat, I gave others personal information about Cinna and her parents, as we all believed that she was being abused by her parents. This was in order to reach out and stuff. And yes, with hindsight, what I did was pure harassment, which is another thing I fully own up to. I should have understood that clearly, and I won't deny that harassing her only worsened things. Keep in mind, however, that at the time, I did not understand any of this. As time went on, Cinna decided to take a break from Discord due to the ongoing harassment. The father went on to claim that those who harass people like this are people who rape or sexually assault women, a comment that deeply offended me at the time as none of this is in my nature. I responded to him denying that claim. As I kept trying to contact Cinna, she would eventually fully leave Discord, as well as her being exposed for her behavior in my community. I would try to reach out everywhere in the hopes of being able to have one conversation, but it all failed. This led on to my tactics being more aggressive, as I strongly believe her parents were trying to turn her against me. This would occur via Reddit posts on alts, or having friends talk to the parents. At the time, I also went ahead and made a video on the situation, in hopes it would reach out to her and to give my perspective on the situation to people at the time. As things went on and I considered more drastic options, one of the members of the group chat, named Axel, got mad and lashed out at me, saying how I essentially used people against her, and in a way, this person isn't wrong that I shouldn't have been so drastic, especially that it was easily considered harassment and doxing. From there, he made a thread that is now deleted about the situation in order to expose me of some sort. I dismissed it for the most part, but I then got some final voice messages from Cinna, saying she was indifferent towards me and how she did not care about her former friends anymore. I will play the clips.
The past might mean something to you, but it means nothing to me. I don't care how many great memories we have together. I don't feel anything when I look back on them. No nostalgia, no longing, no desire to talk to you again. I don't care about how special I am to you or how many people miss me. Because truth be told, I don't care about you or my former friend group anymore. To me, the past is the past. Why live in the past when you can move forward with your life? Oh, and by the way, you did say that you would respect my decision if I chose not to be friends with you. Why not make good on your words and accept that I don't care about you? We're never going to be friends or lovers again. This is the last you will ever hear from me. I will no longer respond to your messages. Bottom line is, I don't care about you, nor do I want to do anything with you. Now, don't get confused. I don't hate you. I just don't care. I wish you the best of luck in life. Oh, and by the way, nothing's less attractive than a man who begs. Just thought I'd tell you that for your future relationships. Anyways, bye.
As a result, I got mad, swore at her, and insulted her. All of those both by the voice message I'll play and this message. In that case, no, genuinely, go fuck yourself. Because after everything everyone has done for you, genuinely go fuck yourself. For everything that others have given you, for all the chances people will give you, Lavin, Rubik, etc., for you to throw them out like shit, you are genuinely an egoistic and apathetic bitch. And I mean it genuinely. And I hope that your parents come to realize that. Or maybe they're like, the same as you. I don't know. But one thing is for certain, is that if you keep going down this path, you will never get far in life. You will never get far in life. You will be clammed up upon your very own self. So congratulations. Hope you're happy because now you fucked up your whole life. So yeah. But maybe that's what you want. Like I'll make sure that like those people, they know about that. Trust me. Right now you just fucked yourself over. Genuinely fuck you. And you have in a way ruined my fucking life. Because when I said that I would stop my studies and everything, it was in the way for you to also help you out. So congratulations. I hope you're fucking happy with the outcome. Because now you're actually a person that I fucking despise. You're evil and twisted in the head. I hope you're really happy with that outcome because genuinely you are twisted in the head. And I hope that you get
the help you need because you're not right in the head. Go fuck yourself.
This was when I essentially realized I was used by her and no longer miss her. Around that time was when I slowly stopped reaching out to Cinna, mostly because she had deleted her accounts and because there weren't any new updates. However, as Axel's threads was catching up, he also made a document against me on November 2nd. All of this piled up and obviously some people were starting to question their friendship with me over this. I tried to disregard Axel's document and try to move on from the situation, but it would get brought up back and forth over time. I saw Axel's document as rather low effort, and therefore didn't think much of it, as I was still trying to heal and move on. From there, Lavin was very affected by this whole situation as I would constantly ask her to keep me updated about Cinna. All of this while she was going through a lot at the time. And granted, constantly nagging her about the Cinna situation was definitely not right on my part. On the evening of the 5th of November, Lavin sent me messages asking me to leave her alone and to spare the last bit of her sanity. I then said how I'm not the source of her problems, to which she admits not having thought consciously. I then write a message saying I would give her space and that I care about her, while also asking advice for stomachache, which, yeah, it was random back then. There's no denying that. Later on the next day, she proceeds to block me after sending a message apologizing. But then, upon speaking in private with someone, I've been told that people were apparently scared of me with the amount of information I could find. Notably by finding Mexi's information and his sister's criminal record, and how I was harsh regarding Cinna. I then explained to that person that I only use information when necessary, like a crime or a danger. When it came to Mexi, I saw direct danger at the time because of several different factors. I even said back then that I wouldn't bother doing anything to those who didn't deserve it, who didn't do anything to me. The reason why I said my actions to Cinna were valid was because she clearly tormented me emotionally for months and tormented others as well. Cinna also encouraged me to find someone's dad in July of that year, which, regarding that, I'll give context. Early in the year, there was a specific person that was part of the friend group with me, Cinna, and Lavin. Said person would eventually backtalk me and Cinna and reveal her first name. Said person was also into gore and wanted to strangle their sibling. Not in a light way, to downright murder them. Cinna essentially encouraged me to contact the dad on Facebook and tell them about all of this, which obviously I realized was a bit too extreme for circumstances. I won't deny it. It was around the same time that I said that I would no longer hold myself responsible if someone pretended everything was fine with me but then backtalked issues, especially when I clearly indicated that I struggle with that. I get it though. People had valid concerns because of the amount of info I can find. I'm not some kind of demon who wants to purposefully hurt others, but obviously there were some times where I went too far. I then go on to message Lavin on the ownership account of my server in order to resolve things. I then try to talk to her about the issues and how she feels about me. I'm not going to read out all of this obviously, but in short, I was trying to find reasons as to why she was distancing me and found it odd how she randomly distanced me. At the time, in my mind, it felt more like she was isolating herself rather than not wishing to speak to me, especially since she said it happens to everyone outside of that friend group of mine. Obviously, as you can tell, I was handling this very poorly, as I was trying too hard to be a psychologist friend. Maybe partly because I was seeing my health professionals every week and trying to give advice to Cinna during our relationship, so it impacted how I try to speak to others as well. I wasn't trying to do anything harmful or to manipulate anyone with this. At the time, I genuinely wanted to help others understand themselves better. I then bring up the finding info stuff and decided to ask her about it to get direct answers. She then goes on to say how she doesn't dislike anything about me, but that it's disturbing how much things I can find. The convo goes on a bit and we decide to remain friends. Around that time, I was still facing accusations from all sides, but I was trying not to focus on those, since they seemed rather petty for what it was, although I would constantly face harassment over this situation. On December 16th, Lavin messaged me on WhatsApp saying that she finally understood everything, saying that Cinna ruined Mexi's life and that he got kicked out of his house. When asking if I could reach out to him, Lavin said he refused. For a while, communications would mostly continue on WhatsApp. Eventually though, Lavin randomly blocked me again on December 28th. No reason, no message, it just happened out of the blue. Because of this, I got quite mad and decided to send her a message in the Zernafirma server, one that she kept ownership of after Cinna's departure. This follows with her sending a message on the Prunelandian ownership account saying she was too mentally unstable to be friends with me now, to which I responded I was sorry she felt the way she did. And it could have ended there, but instead, I learned a few days later that Lavin backtalked me by showing screenshots about that person I mentioned earlier. I then get mad and ask for Lavin to essentially leave me alone and express my frustration to Rubik at the time. Time goes by and I quickly forget about this, but within January, an account known as The Letter Question would join Zernafirma again, claiming to be Cinnamon herself coming back to Discord. Immediately panicking as my friend informs me of this, I decide to ask if there's anything more to it, to which they provide more screenshots from Zernafirma. Seeing that this newt person welcomed back Cinna and said it should only be natural, I banned him from my community with no hesitation. As Rubik at the time friended Cinna again, I blocked him as well and left Zakin. server that this other person I talked about earlier was in. For some time, I had radio silence from these people. A few other controversies arise, like the stuff with King Carter back then, or the Ouija pie situation. But apart from those, things were relatively stable. On April 24th, 2024, Lavin reached out to Red Kitsune to apparently apologize to me. I obviously asked to see the message as I get a bit suspicious of it, and I get shown screenshots of Lavin asking about my community and saying that she's sorry to me. That's when I send 2 messages to forward, which I will now play.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my honest opinion. I'm a bit mixed on this apology because on one side I can see that he wants to be sorry, and I guess because it's been months, but at the same time, it feels a little bit empty for the reason that, like, when he blocked me, he initially said it was for his mental health, whatever, which was a complete lie. But he also tried to, send things to Octo, etc. And just I'm sorry for what I did. It doesn't feel very specific, for once. And for two, the fact that then he also, I'm not sure, but I think he refriended Cinnamon as well after. It seems very suspicious to me, and I don't know what to think of it. So if you want to send him this, it's fine. I don't mind, but I'm just a bit suspicious on it. I'm not saying that I will never accept it or whatever. I'm just saying I have some suspicions, and rightfully so, because it just feels a bit empty, and I just don't know what to think of it. That's all I can really say. I just don't know what to think of it, and overall, it just feels a bit stale, and I can't really say much on it. So yeah, that's all I can really say. Also, for the record, when I see also saying, "Oh, how does the server doing?" I also don't know what to think of it. Just seems like just makes it even more specific. It feels like he didn't really care about me, but rather instead the server, the community, and I don't know what to think of it.
I then wait for Lavin's response, and here's what Lavin said. Allow me to clarify. I'm sorry for what I did. Initially, I wanted to confirm your response before proceeding with a formal apology. I must say that during these past few months, I have been dealing with my instability and mental issues, which has since improved. And actually, you were not the only friend that I have pushed away. I also didn't decide to contact Cinna. However, Cinna has since reached out to me, and her behavior has normalized slightly. Returning to the main issue at hand, I'm really sorry for leaving you without explanation. In hindsight, I realized the importance of communicating my struggles beforehand. At the time, I was not in the right head, and I failed to recognize the need of providing context and some other things. I have spoken to a couple of school counselors and managed to stable myself. I mostly saw this as genuine and said I'm willing to talk more if needed. I then unblocked Lavin and we start chatting again normally. This was around the same time I joined a world building project with some people, including DQ, who was a close friend of mine at the time, and Red Kitsune. I will not name the project or the one who made said project in order to not restart any drama, but in short, Prunilandia was a nation there along with other nations. During that project, while some dramas would occur here and there, mostly were just childish skirmishes. This will not be the focus of this chapter, however, as of now, since I'll mostly focus on the discussions I had with Lavin. As Lavin got back in contact with me, she mentioned how Mexi was apparently not a groomer and that I nearly got him in jail if it wasn't for someone else. We talked a bit about several things. She mentioned how I find people's location when they didn't do anything wrong, to which I responded that this was false, and that in other cases, I had permission to do so. She went on to claim that I found where Rubik lived and that I had someone else's dead name, both of which I denied because those accusations were simply not true. More time passes by and we discuss more about Cinna in May, along with some other things about Mexi. A few months later, the subject was brought up again, and when I listed some of the things that Cinna was/did, Lavin said this: "There is more." You're kidding, right? Nope. Got more stuff out of Mexi. She has a horrible pet play fetish. Yeah, and would try to forcing it onto others. She kept trying to force me into anal. Yep. That motherfucker is a horny whore. And as the conversation went on, Lavin said the following messages. Thing is, Mexi didn't do anything to her. She asked for it. She wanted to be free use. And yeah, he had no choice. Because he was forced in the hospital with cancer. You just ruined someone's life over a lie. I then felt quite guilty because of what she said. And I believed her because, 1, I didn't remember the exact details of the situation with Mexi at the time, and 2, I had a lot of hatred for Cinna, and still do to this day. The conversation continues with me apologizing constantly and expressing regret. I hope you understand I'm genuinely sorry though. I don't know if you do accept my apology, but I genuinely wasn't aware of how manipulative Cinna was back then. Listen, I don't hold grudges. At least I got him back, you know. If you can, please tell her I'm sorry as well, and that I wish I would have known better about how manipulative she was. I would rather not reopen a healed wound. Took me long enough to help him seal it. Plus the rage he has is scary. The fact you took everything from him makes it worse. You literally even tried to get him in jail. Like, man, his mom is a single mother raising 6 kids. She doesn't have the money for that. Lavin, look, I don't mean to be mean, but I already understood that I shouldn't have trusted Cinna. Like, can you please not sugarcoat the blame on me? I understand that I tried to get him in jail, etc., but you gotta keep in mind that I was manipulated by Cinna. I fucked up massively, yes, I'm not gonna deny that, but please at least understand that. Again, I'm not trying to be rude here, just please don't sugarcoat it. That's all I ask. I hope you understand. I'm not sugarcoating anything, just trying to consider your feelings here too. You're asking for an explanation, not for me to rage on you. So obviously the phrasing is gonna be different. Yeah, but the way you're implying it here is like trying to put all blame on me. I understand I fucked up, yes, I won't deny that, but you cannot deny Cinna manipulated me into believing that. Yeah, I know she did. I never said I fully blamed it on you. I know, just the phrasing kinda sounds like that. I think we should change topic. I'm gonna go sleep. It's 12 AM. After that conversation, I felt quite guilty and felt like Mexi was the victim. But we moved on from the subject. From there, we would sometimes discuss lore-related stuff about Prunilandia and other things such as inclusion of the lore in Prunilandia, etc. Now, I will give you all context regarding the lore because it's something that will be mentioned later on. In the lore of Prunilandia, a lot of the elements are derived from real events that occurred either in my community or personal experiences. I essentially transcribed them as fictional events in the history of Prunilandia, which is the nation that Respun oversees in the lore. One particular period in that lore is known as the Dark Years, which is essentially a representation of how me and my community lived through what Cinna did to all of us. Fast forward a bit to February 2025, Lavin goes on to mention how she realized how much Cinna twisted words. Remember how she said Mexi had a breeding kink, etc.? He just wanted a big family in reality because, like, he has 7 siblings. Or more. I forgot. But yeah. What pissed me off is like how yesterday those cunts against me. They said that Cinna didn't manipulate me into a relationship. She certainly did. And she manipulated Mexi to stay. Geez, she's crazy. Well, they said how she didn't use suicide as manipulation. But like, haven't they considered that my interpretation definitely did, even then, her guilt tripping still had an impact? They didn't understand shit, and kept saying my document had loopholes. Like, what are they, fucking Sherlock Holmes? She did, definitely. Every time Mexi tried to leave, she was like, I can't live without you. I'd slit my throat. Fast forward a few days, she initiated a conversation saying how none of us noticed the red flags. I was reading old messages. How did none of us notice the red flags? It was so obvious. Huh? Who? Well, I did notice before you, but yeah. Cinna. Oh, right. I mean, I already did tell you I'm very vulnerable to manipulation, so. Which is how also did, as you may have seen in announcements. Later I will. But man, if you have ever heard Mexi's side of the story, Cinnamon is a slut and an attention seeker. Bro, Mexi is not a rapist. Isn't she also like a pick-me girl? No, attention seeker. Bro wanted to do an ERP with Mexi, when Mexi chose to let me decide when I would be ready. Like, make it make sense who's the rapist. She essentially twisted Mexi's mind and then made him look like a villain. And made me believe it too. Like, holy fuck. Honestly, it was the other way around. Her begging for dick pics, manipulating Mexi into doing weird shit, and bothering her when he had cancer. Like, let the man rest in hospital from your bullshit. She then goes on about the fact I supposedly ruined Mexi's life, but also says how it apparently isn't my fault. Well, I'm glad Sin has been chased off now. You know, I was actually rather mad and afraid at you two until I became numb. I'm just gonna make one thing clear, however, for the record. I have no ill intention or any intention of harm, though. I probably sound like a broken record, but yeah. I know, just saying. Not gonna blame you for it now. Well, yeah, because I myself feel a lot of guilt for it. But you gotta remember, it was Cinnamon who manipulated me on that. So can I fully be blamed? Not really. And you did ruin someone's life with Cinnamon's manipulation, but it's not your fault. Almost lost my life, but I'm alive, and I got him back. Though I hope you at least did forward to Mexi since I felt sorry for my actions. He was kinda glad he got Cinnamon away. The only thing he didn't appreciate was the bashing in public server. Did you though, at least? Like say that I regretted my actions, that I was manipulated by Cinna. I just told him you're sorry. He didn't want to hear more. What do you mean? Told me to drop the topic. Okay, fair. On another day, this conversation happened. I had a few felonies. Kicked out from my house. All of that so I could keep Cinna happy. Even used my extra money to buy her a gift. Huh? Something Mexi said. So yeah, you aren't the only one that got your life ruined. If anything, it proves Cinna was not a victim. And that Mexi and I were both victims of her antics. If anything. Mexi even worse than you, to be honest. I mean, yeah, definitely. I still remember the days he was gone. I thought he was gone for good. But really, he was just talking to Cinnamon. And well, he got accepted back into his house, but yeah. Cinna is awful. Yeah. During that time, a situation occurred with an ex-friend of mine. In short, they lied about their identity for a long time and then tried to smear me. Out of curiosity, I found the actual person's identity, especially as this person went to extreme lengths at one point. And that's why I found out her real identity and that she was never British but always a Filipino. Justified though. Not gonna go around spreading all of who I found. Oh, what the fuck? Yeah. Not in my opinion, to be honest, but I mean, she admitted to toying with people on purpose and lying about identity and even fraudulating signatures for school. Besides, she boasted about those profiles not being hers and stuff. I'm not going to use those infos to dox her. Rather, instead of taking legal action, if I were to do so, I could instead just contact her mother and inform her of everything and her possibly being mentally insane. No, but really, she is insane. It would be better and less costly than invoking legal action. Okay, so Lavin then goes on to say how my view of justice is flawed at times. She then cites Mexi and that other person back in July 2023 as examples of my justice being skewed. Give me examples of this occurring. Mexi and especially. But maybe I'm just scarred. Scared? You didn't do anything. No, scarred. Why would I do anything to you? Oh, right. For Mexi, I 100% agree, but that was due to Cinna's manipulation. I already said this. Bro has dyslexia too. For I would say it's a gray area. I would mostly say it was poor execution. Since then, I've learned to be more careful. Although definitely was going insane at one point, but yeah. Well, yes. But he barely affected you guys, to be honest. Well, yeah. Funny how it started with saying Cinna's first name. Her first name is not even rare. The conversation kinda goes back and forth. As I explained, this person was purposefully ruining others for fun and toying with people emotionally, which I deemed quite alarming at the time. She goes on to say stuff about leaking, which I wouldn't do because that wasn't the kind of action I meant. We go on to move on from the topic. For a while, this wouldn't be brought up again until March when I remembered something about Cinna. I remembered something recently about Cinna, and it was so manipulative but also so funny too. Like, very laughable. I don't want to hear more of her, oh my lord. Geez, okay, sorry, I was just saying. It's okay. I didn't mean it in a mean/rude sense. Yeah, but the oh my lord made me feel like it was. What I was referencing though was just the line, puts knife against my clit. Guess I don't need this then. I remember this and started laughing like crazy at how stupidly manipulative it was. Oh my god, I laughed at that back then. I just didn't have the heart to tell you how stupid and funny that is. Also, that would hurt a lot. In that same month, I mentioned something about the dark years and how they were horrendous, and we started discussing about Cinna again. I realized how blind I was back then. I was blind too. We all were. It's called growing up. No, I wouldn't have been if I was home. It happened at the wrong time. Bad time. I just came back from Hong Kong. It caught me by surprise. I didn't get to think before I act. She goes on to say that Mexi never seemed predatory to her and that her mind was finally cleared after months. When we discuss things further, Lavin continued going on about how Mexi was not a groomer, etc. She then goes on to say that the reason he asked Cinna to grow her breast was to get rid of her and that he kept trying to use those methods to get rid of her. We then go on about how Cinna was manipulative and abusive. I just resaw some of Cinna's old messages from the screen and this is so much worse than I thought. Which one? Show me. Her messages about trans people and her blackmailing. I saw it now, just here. And then you wonder why I'm so fucking paranoid these days of a ton of stuff and get scared. How did I not see the red flags? Crazy. I'm sorry, she was a transphobe all along. By the way, all this was also around the same time I started being more open with my friends about my relationship with Gracie, which you all mostly know as Galifist. I would ask some of my friends for advice on certain things like communication, etc., which is a normal thing to do when you're in the early stages of a relationship. Eventually, the next month, I found out that when Lavin has sent me a clay figurine of my character, aka this one, I realized that there was a box that was meant to be for Cinna that was never opened. I then asked Lavin if I should take a look, to which she agreed. I got emotional because I saw that we both had the same pages, and it leads to me discussing about how she treated me. Lavin then said how Cinna was playing with my feelings. This then follows with me saying how some people told me how Cinna groomed me, asking her about it. Regarding that terrorist thing, for context, I essentially claimed the terrorist attack occurred where someone wanted to hunt me down. This occurred in around July or August in 2023, which I agree was incredibly stupid. Yet again, I wasn't that mature at the time and I did stupid things out of anxiety and because she kept ghosting me every time. Obviously though, it doesn't justify it, and it's not something to fake like that. I obviously improve from that. After a bit of talking, Lavin then says how Cinna did groom me in a way. I was quite upset by it and in a bit of denial at the time because it was not something easy to realize. Eventually, I then asked around to see if that was even possible, which to my surprise, it was in fact true. I then remember a few days later something about Cinna said back then, saying, "It is not my fault you are lonely," which was simply not true as she was isolating me from close friends at the time. Lavin says how it is likely that Cinna got the sentence from her. This was also around the same time that Lavin joined said project I mentioned earlier. A few weeks later, she says how Cinna would show her inappropriate things even though she didn't ask for it. Lavin goes on to say how she had a bad feeling about Cinna from the start, as we were discussing about how my current girlfriend was treating me much better than Cinna ever did. As we discuss more and more, she then goes on about how someone else had good intuition about Cinna, and this results in Lavin eventually saying how if it weren't for that person, I would have killed Mexi or sent him to jail. We then discuss about how the character Amber Volpes, a fictional representation of Cinna in the lore, would die. This was a way to represent how the community in a way evicted her. This is then left aside for a week or two. The only slight mention before that was when I found a screenshot of Cinna publicly shaming me, to which Lavin says was likely a reflection of Mexi's attitude. The topic gets brought up again when I say how Prinlandia won't have a territory named Zerna Firma. We go on to discuss about how Cinna's Due account died and how I hoped she was fully gone. As the convo goes on, Lavin reveals to me that the account, the letter question, aka Cinema's new account, wasn't actually her. The convo goes on and she then says how it wasn't actually her, but it ended up actually being Mexi. On June 23rd, following heated arguments constantly occurring in the project I mentioned earlier, I decided to leave and advised some of my friends to leave the project, many of whom did not do so as they wanted to still see what was going on or didn't see much issues. One of them was Lavin, and this was when she mentioned the situation of her boyfriend Mexi again. I won't leave for now. I'll take my time to consider my stance. Okay, sorry if it seems like I don't believe you. No, I understand you want to take some time to think. Just please understand though this is a pattern of behavior and I have tried to resolve things for months. This isn't new. I know, but I'll see. I don't know if I should still trust your judgment after the incident with my boyfriend. I have trust issues. Sorry. Oh come on, that was a while ago, under the influence of Cinna. I've already apologized for this man. It's still cut deep. I'm sorry. It takes time. I don't trust easily. Yes, but I already apologized, taking accountability, and this shit happened a while ago. You also gotta understand Cinnamon manipulated me into that shit. I know it hurt you at this point, but you can't just bring it up every single time. It happened 2 years ago. I didn't bring it up every single time. I'm just giving you an explanation for my mistrust. I then got mad because I felt like she was putting more salt in the wound when this was already resolved months prior. Okay, but please stop bringing up the stuff with Mexi. I've already apologized and I've already understood it, and like I said, you can't just fully blame me for this. It's not healthy neither for me, neither for you. I do not fully blame you, but an apology is not going to fix the pain or the broken trust. Okay then, what is it then? What is it? Tell me. It takes time. I then told her how it was 2 years since the whole incident occurred, and she went on to yell at me, saying how she went through 8 months of torture and she nearly killed herself. I then talked to her how if she really wants to move on, she shouldn't mention it every single time, to which she says how she was just explaining and she barely talked about it. The tone rapidly became more stern when I got mad and explained how I already tried my best to resolve everything, but in vain. It felt like I wasn't listened to because she said how she didn't trust me. I only yelled at you because you kept what saying wasn't enough. Nothing will ever be enough. Only time will heal. Okay, and why did you reconnect with me despite you saying that you didn't think it's enough and that you needed more time, etc.? Why then? Because by that logic, you don't trust me. I'm okay with you. This is contradictory, Lavin. But trusting you is another thing. I can be friends with you, but I don't trust you fully. You never mentioned it in the slightest, Lavin. You never did even back then. You only did just now. And why did you never say that? Let me guess. Oh, I didn't want to hurt you? No, that's not how it works. I just never thought of a time to mention it. And you expect me to be at blame for that? Not once did I blame you for anything. And regardless, you yelling at me was unjustified. I'm not even blaming you for anything. I then decided to ask her for space for a couple of days in order to calm things down. A couple of days later, as things calmed down, I decided to reach out to her and say I was ready to talk to her again when she was ready. Things were fine again from there. For a while, nothing else would happen. Up until July, where I mentioned how soon I would have been with Gracie longer than with Cinna. With Cinna, I was with her for 5 months and 14 days. With Galifist, tomorrow it'll be 5 months. So in 14 days, she'll have surpassed that. Isn't that awesome? Yep, it is. Who hasn't been in a longer relationship without Cinnamon SMH? Also, why keep mentioning Cinna? Don't you want to keep those things in the past? No, I do try to move on from the past. But this is an achievement that shows how Cinna is left behind now in a way. And it makes Galifist happy to hear she's been with me longer than with Cinna, so I was heavily impacted by Cinna also, so yeah, doesn't help. Time in relationship doesn't really matter, really just emotional depth. But you do you, just glad you're happy. When I mentioned how I was impacted by Cinna, Lavin is saying how she was too. Like I wasn't, SMH. I still feel like you're mentioning her more than you should. To me and Galifist it does matter because it surpassed that, so I'm not saying you weren't. Obviously you were affected. I try not to mention it too much though. Here's just a thought I had. Last time I mentioned her this was in DMs a month ago. I definitely don't talk to her all the time. Indirectly you do. No. I didn't want another conflict so I asked her to not go in a circle. But she only doubled down, pressuring me about it, saying I was having a constant reminder, when in reality I don't even mention it much. It's simply a lore element that doesn't really matter in the whole story. As she was pressuring me more and more about it, I ended up explaining everything to her fully from my perspective. This results in her saying she talked with me while she was in the hospital and everything, and admitted to being resentful, and that I didn't even think twice about the effects of my power. As she kept pressuring me more and more with this conversation and blaming me, I went on to tell her how I regret what happened and ask her what would I need to do. She kept trying to bug me about it despite me asking her to leave me alone, but she only continued. Eventually she agrees to leave me alone about it as I get more mad and panic with her bugging me about it. At that point I was trying to let things calm down and wanted to give ourselves space, but she then started spamming a gif in group chat that I was in, which felt a lot like she was trying to provoke me or get a reaction out of me. Out of panic, I removed her from all the group chats I was in with her, including one particular group chat known as Cinnamon Roll, which was an old group chat she had with Mexi and Cinna. She got mad and then decided to lash out in my DMs, trying to pretend like she wasn't targeting me. Bryce, add me back to the Cinnamon Roll group chat. I'll stop sending gifts. There is important information and memories I have there. If you're not happy, you can give the group chat to me and leave. I'm fucking serious. I don't get how a Fubuki gift can trigger you that badly. It was not in the slightest way offensive. And you weren't the only one that got it. In fact, I specifically avoided your DM for a reason. I'll add you back, but I'm asking you just leave me alone, that's all. I'm just about done with this bullshit, man. Okay, give me ownership of that group chat. Done. I don't care about that group chat anymore anyway, so there. Now leave me alone, man. I'm done with you. I'm sorry, but I'm just having enough. Thank you. Bye. After all of this, I go on to discuss with my friend DQ about all of this, telling him that Lavin was essentially harassing me about it. I get mad as DQ didn't seem to see it as harassment, despite her trying to nag me with a gift while I wanted her to leave me alone. I then explained to him about what Lavin was doing regarding holding a grudge and stuff, to which he suggests me to block her. DQ kept on trying to justify what Lavin was doing. This ended up in me cutting the conversation short as I didn't want to deal with more as I had other matters at the time as well, mostly in real life. After DQ advised me to block Lavin, I did, trying to end things on a positive and de-escalating note. After all of this, I simply wanted to move on from the situation with Lavin, as I didn't want any drama whatsoever. I didn't ban her from my community because it felt unnecessary at the time, and I did not want my duty suspended for banning without staff vote again. A few weeks pass, and I do notice that DQ starts being distant towards me and ignoring me in both DMs and groups. So I decided to ask him about it because I was rather confused. Here's how the whole conversation went. So that's why I'm asking if I did anything wrong to you. Have I or no? Well, there are two things. Currently, I am in a phase in life where things are going downhill, so I'm selectively lessening social contact because of that. Secondly, I am not too fond of how you handled the Lavin situation. Can you please elaborate on that second thing? Well, surely you had a different perspective and opinion on how things went, but you ended up just blocking her instead of actually resolving something. You are in your free right to do so, but that isn't really how you heal old wounds. Lavin held a grudge on you for very understandable reasons. Her not forgiving you is her choice, but if you then simply continue contact over time as nothing happened, not acknowledging what happened, that is not the way to go. To me, it felt very odd that he said this given he was the one advising me to block her in the first place. What jumped out to me is how he said if I simply continue contact over time as nothing happened, as that is not the way to go. I then give him my full perspective. I will be completely honest with you though, this wasn't just about this, because it was also how she was constantly bullying me, etc. Even if she saw it as a joke, it still felt harsh the way she treated me. When it comes to resolving that issue, how else do you want me to solve things? I took days to let things calm down, but this happened before. The issue is that I asked her what do I need to do for her to not hold that grudge anymore. The answer? She said nothing. Time, she said, but it's been around 2 years. A reminder, you yourself told me I should block her. She tried to be very edgy about it like, you can't run away from your mistakes forever, or whatever. Do you think that's a good way to go about things as well? Moreover, I want to mention what happened in detail was more so Cinna's doing than mine. You see, Cinna made the announcement because she manipulated the information, making it seem like Mexi groomed her. TLDR, since then it's clear that wasn't the case. But back then, I had no idea of knowing. All I did was accumulate info Cinna told me, gave it to the hospital or whatever, but I don't recall calling the cops or anything. Another shocking fact, Lavin was on board with the plan too back then, encouraging it, so by that logic, is she also responsible? I was manipulated by Cinna, and the actions I took back then definitely weren't the directly responsible actions as Lavin tries to make it out to be. I have apologized to Lavin countless times as well, but she keeps trying to antagonize me over it. I blocked her because things weren't getting any better, and she was specifically targeting any group chats I was in. You may not have seen it, but she absolutely did. And with the way she reacted, I had no choice but to block. And also, you were the one encouraging me to block her. I'm not acknowledging what happened, but there's no use constantly antagonizing me when I'm not even the main actor. Moreover, she was the one who decided to attack me again, not the other way around. If she truly held that grudge, she shouldn't have reached out again. I also didn't ban her from my community due to the opposition it would cause. Plus, it would cause drama. As a result, I haven't. There you have my honest perspective on this. It's not just about that grudge. It's about the fact she was constantly rude towards me, and the thing with the gifts was an indirect provocation, whether she wanted it or not. Again, I agree that I definitely wasn't perfect, and still am not, but to claim that I'm fully responsible over the Mexi shit is simply not true. There's a difference between not acknowledging and constantly bringing it up, and if she clearly holds a grudge on me for that long, etc., there's no point in keeping contact with her, especially with other things mentioned. I hope this full responses address your concerns appropriately. Thank you. P.S. I did try to resolve things regarding the issue numerous times. She refused. That's on her, not on me. He then responds with a simple, okay. I hope you understand my perspective better and why I took that decision. Trust me, it really wasn't a light decision. Yeah. I then thought this was resolved, so I asked if you were chill now, to which to my surprise, he said, eh? No, that's not how it works. What do you mean? I'm confused. That wasn't the only part of the Lavin situation. There are many things she shared with me. All I gotta say to that is just bruh. This is the good old trope of, we had a fight, so now I'm going to dig up every negative thing I can think of and decide that everything about them was not resolved all along. Something which I sometimes do and do not like honestly. And I could argue that it shouldn't concern you much in the first place. If anything else happened, that's me and Lavin's business. And if we don't like each other, move on. I'm obviously not going to go and claim I'm a saint, but like man, things need to chill down. I do not want more drama. Genuinely. I then ask him if we should give each other space for time or not. He responds to 2 of my messages. I'm also not too fond of drama. Don't worry about it. No, I need to know. I'm not going to go with indirect things I can barely understand. So I'm asking, do we just give each other space for some time to let things calm down? Do we try to move on from all of this? I'm genuinely asking here. Do you still see me as a friend, man? That's what I'm asking. Sure, well, just so you know, I never block people, so no worries about that. I'm not going to be one of those people who suddenly abandons you after years of friendship. I'm not like that. But I'm still not fond regardless. Of what? Yeah, but dude, I'll say this, like, being 100% honest, this is something that happened between me and Lavin. And I feel like, as we are both adults, this is either something we both solve, or something we just move on about. Well, yes, but she has vented to me so much about it. It's a bit difficult to stay neutral at this point. I think I know what you mean now. Was it like the Cinna stuff where she would be involved, etc.? That thing? Is that what you mean? Not only. A lot of things. Can you list me then, please? Not really. That is something between her and me. I know that it isn't helpful a lot if I don't share any of it, but it has to be how it is. I was already mad at that point, but this only aggravated it because he was being so vague and cryptic that I didn't even know what was going on behind the scenes. Look man, I'll tell you this. Those things are the only things I really recall here. Because if there's something else, either I do not remember it, or she didn't confront me about it directly instead. And if it's the latter, then let me ask you, can I be entirely at fault in that case? Because before all this shit, things seemed fine. We got along fine. She was the one who kept bringing up the issue, mind you, about the Mexi thing. I'm not one to start holding grudges over and over. The only grudge I truly hold on is Cinna for grooming me, which is pretty obvious. But like, again, if Lavin really held a grudge, then let me ask you, why did she try to reach out again? She literally asked a common friend to reach out or whatever. She's the one who reached out, not me. She's the one who initially blocked me, not her. And to me it feels like she's being heavily dishonest. The amount of time she spent constantly making jokes bullying me. That one time in the train where she took a screenshot of my face without my consent like that. Tons of them like this, where I had to tell her directly it was bad. I can go on about that too. Yet I don't because it was resolved, and she already apologized. So again, I'm not going to put myself at fault for life for something which I'm not directly responsible of, and things that were solved. Or if she can't accept apologies. If she can't accept apologies, there's always a block button, which she could have chosen. Why would she want to be in contact again if she was resentful? The mere reason that she blocked me was because she couldn't be directly honest to my face, man. I can go on, but you get the point. It isn't my fault she doesn't have humility and never communicated well. Neither it is for taking distance over the constant grudges. And neither it is for blocking her because I've had enough of everything, and I believed it was the best way to go. She's in a way trying to worsen things. How? By what she's doing. All that antagonizing, etc. It does more harm than good. She claims I don't move on about Cinna, yet she doesn't either concerning my shit with Mexi. It's quite hypocritical. Point is, you shouldn't have gotten involved directly to begin with, and Lavin is fueling more fire than resolving anything. I believe she should stop and let this rest now. So will I. I already moved on. If she still dislikes me that much, I invite her to leave my community and not come back. He then responds to my messages. Yes, you can, because she wanted to get back in contact with Red Kitsune, she said. The only way was through you. Seeing this was an obvious lie, I decided to respond with evidence. His response then was just, Lavin lied here. She literally lied. No, I cannot. If she doesn't confront me on things directly, then I will not hold myself at fault. I'm sorry, but that's where I draw the line. Anyways, I've had enough of this. I would like for Lavin to no longer mention me and I no longer mention her. I'll be taking a decision soon so we can both move on fully. You and other people can still be friends with her, but I don't want to hear about her ever again. All of this has been kind of stopped for a while and we mostly moved on. While DQ wasn't as responsive, we still had times where we chatted and so I just moved on. There was this one time where I asked DQ advice on something map related, since that's his main field, with him not caring much about it. But aside from that, nothing too unusual at the time. On September 24th, 2025, in a mutual group chat with DQ and some other friends, someone said how I was perfect of some sort, to which DQ decided to reply, not quite, and that he would explain another time. I didn't respond at first until I saw DQ say things that felt quite rude at the time. I then tried to make him understand how what he said was quite rude, to which he says, I'm just being honest though. Do you want me to just say yeah, it's good without having watched it? That would be lying. No, but instead of saying don't care, maybe instead say can't watch right now or something. Why? During this conversation in that group chat, I DM'd him with one of the things he said, telling him we would need to have a talk, to which he just says, okay. On that same day, I decided to DM Red Kitsune about the circumstances, asking his insight on the situation. Man, DQ keeps acting distant to me and was rude to me earlier again. It's visible he's distant from me. Like, just earlier, I asked him in that group chat his thoughts on something. He said, don't really care, while he excused it with the fact he was in class, which is understandable. Just before that, when someone said Bryce is perfect, he said not quite, and that the person said, hater, to which DQ responded, I will explain one day. Like, dude, what's his problem with me? I thought it would improve with time, but it's just worsening. How odd. Huh. Honestly, dude, we should revoke his admin status at this point. He's been acting odd to me over a few months now, and he isn't even active. It isn't worth keeping him as admin, honestly. I'm not gonna stop being friends with him, but like, yeah. Well, if you ask me, that's something you should try to discuss with him. I tried, man. Even if he doesn't reply, just run it past him. I tried before, but there's no change. Like, last time I tried to talk, things didn't go much, and there is no change. Besides his behavior, is there anything else you feel that warrants doing this? Like I said, he has shown not much activity, abstains in every vote, he doesn't seem to remotely care, and it should go obvious that we cannot keep someone who is just indirectly hostile to me as an admin. As much as it hurts, like, think about it for a second. If you were in my position, what would you do? Well, see, that's the thing. It's a tough call if you ask me, because, hear me out. On the one hand, I can totally understand where you're coming from, but on the other, doing such a bold move could carry the risk of this spiraling out of control. Not really, in the sense he wouldn't care much. If he asked, I could just say he was deemed too inactive and that his recent distance has made him unfit anymore, which is an entirely valid reason. True. But are you 100% sure this is something you want to do? Yeah, but it requires for you to make the decision. But trust me, like, we have no choice at this point. Like, it's not against him, but we can't keep someone who's indirectly hostile and inactive as an admin. Right. Another reason this is a tough call is because we have no precedents. And he's a friend too. Again, in the procedures, both the captain and the key keeper can name admins, but the key keeper makes a decision officially. Is a friend, yet he doesn't have admin. It's not because someone is a friend that he needs to have admin. Here's what I mean. And I could argue he likely is starting not to see me as one, which is part of why too. I think the only other time we've booted someone from the council was Cinna, and that decision was practically unanimous, given the circumstances. That much was acceptable. But here, I don't know if we'd get the others on board with this. We've had people leave voluntarily, and that time with Cinna, but I don't think we've seen anything like this before. No, she left herself. Either way, I think he was bound to happen eventually. Right, but again, he clearly has something against me, and he's been inactive. If you're a job employer, someone is hostile to you, isn't active in their job. Do you keep them in? The inactivity also makes it difficult for votes to occur, by the way, because if someone always has an empty seat, it makes the threshold bigger too. I genuinely believe the reasons here are founded, and not taking action would leave a bad precedent too. How so? This is the exact problem we had with Cinna. Lack of action due to bias. It isn't because someone is a friend or close that we cannot take action. Being a staff member requires some decent communication. If there is none, and they are hostile, how do you expect them to be fit in their role? It just doesn't work. You do have a point. DQ is lack communication, but distant to me. Hostile in some instances, and is not active in his duties. You cannot fulfill your duties without communication. Like, at all. You feel me? Yeah, I see what you mean. So yeah, those are the reasons why. What do you say? Let me think about it. It's late and I gotta go to bed. So tomorrow I'll let you know. The next day, in the morning, I decide to ask Red Kitsune about his thoughts. This is how the conversation went. Hi, have you given some consideration to what I said yesterday, or? I have, yes. I still say you should try talking to him. One last time. Try reaching out to him. Kinda like you did with a couple of others back in the day. Kinda like with or whoever else. Reach out to him and try to start dialogue. That's my decision. And if he's still the same, we should, in my opinion, consult with the other staff. Only then can we really have some sense of democracy. Because I don't think we alone should decide his fate. Booting someone from the council should require a collective vote in my honest opinion. Well, here this would need a change in the system. A compromise, though, we could agree on, though, is how if I try and speak to him and he's still in his hostile, grudgeful mindset and stuff, then we should agree to remove admin. If he isn't inherently hostile and grudgeful, etc., and some misunderstanding, we can keep him. Because if he were hostile and you would want to keep him as admin, I would not understand, honestly. But yeah, not inherently saying that's what you're doing, by the way. We just really don't want to be too lax on such an important issue, as in refusing to take action so much. Hope that makes sense. I see. I'll try reaching out to him first, and then we'll see where to go from there. Okay, good. After this conversation, a few hours later, I decided to DM DQ on Discord to finally discuss all of the issues. We delayed it a bit because he was in uni, so we discussed everything in the evening. I then tell him in a message how I felt he was more cold towards me and dismissive, and how he hurt a lot given that I did not know what warranted all of this hate. That is when he messaged me back a few minutes later with the following. So, I did not quite know how to explain this earlier since it is so wrong in so many ways, but I will get right to the point. In those screenshots, he was referring to the 3D model of Cinna's character I did back when I was 17. He sends more screenshot, which I will show on screen. What the fuck is this? Why on earth were you doing this with a 14-year-old girl? You were 4 years older than her and at the end even a legal adult. There is no way any kind of manipulation stories can explain this. This is both legally and morally wrong and incredibly messed up. He then pulls up a screenshot from July 2023 regarding what I said about the nuanced consensual laws. I was not even quite aware of it at the time, but you try to justify it in so many ways. This is seriously not okay. Justifying sexual interactions with a minor. Things like that can cause serious psychological and in practice also physical damage to the minor in question. And you do not have the mental capacity to realize it? And the fact that you did this with her privately is one thing, but then you share it with others? And just saying something like, don't tell this to anyone is enough to cover up illegal activities? That is so insanely messed up. You think I can talk to you normally after finding out shit like this? Obviously, it was quite a shock to me that all of this was said at once like this, so I then asked him if I could respond. Am I able to respond now? I have a bunch more, but sure, go ahead. Well, do you want me to instead first respond, or for you to put everything before I do respond? Which one works better for you? It would take too long to pull out all the other things. It's a rather long list. I then tried to respond as best as I could, saying how I was manipulating the relationship, how Cinna initiated a lot of the sexual things, and how health professionals already oversaw the whole situation with me and Cinna. To me, this felt like a very solid message that took a lot of accountability as well. You can see that I took accountability multiple times in that response. But apparently, that wasn't enough, because he outright said, "No, I am not buying this. There is absolutely no sense of responsibility. You are not a willless creature. The 3D modeling alone. How can there be not even the most basic level of realization that you're literally creating child porn?" I tried to say how I wasn't trying to justify anything, but it kept on going back and forth as you see here. I obviously also asked him on what I'm even supposed to do, as I've done a lot of change since then, and to me, it felt like I did all of what I could. I tried to explain again that I had made a lot of mistakes and wrongs, but he kept on trying to claim I wasn't taking any responsibility. Did you even read this? Yes, I handled things very poorly. I'm not gonna fucking deny that, but to claim I don't take responsibility is a fucking lie. Literally. So what now? Tell me, what now? That is when he said, as in, I have heard the story enough times now and I am not convinced that you have any sense of the matter. Thus, I am not going to hear any more of it. After this, I got kicked out of the group chat with those friends on WhatsApp, banned in that group server, and DQ left my community in the admin group chat. I panicked and sent this message in the group chat. A few minutes later, I decided to talk to Red Kitsune in DMs, as I didn't know much of what to do. But instead of trying to be reassuring, I found him to be quite pressuring towards me. I kept trying to tell him I needed to calm down first, but nothing would work, as he would keep pressuring me more and more. I then decided to tell him I needed some time to calm down before I were to discuss those things. Cause the thing is, even though I sought help, okay, and while I was groomed by Cinna, as you know, and manipulated in a lot of things, I'm just scared you'll hate me or whatever. But despite my explanations to DQ, it was in vain. I'm scared, okay? I feel disgusted myself too. That too. Right. Why would I hate you though? That's the thing. I don't know what you did, so I'd have to see it for myself. Later on though, obviously. I just hope you understand this though. I do not have bad intentions. I genuinely do not. Very well. Just show me what happened later on when you're calmer, and I can see what went down. Okay, but please promise me you'll try to understand this. I genuinely had no bad intentions, and I was manipulated. I just really hope you try to understand that. Cause trust me, dude, I don't want to be a bad person. Genuinely, I don't. I really don't, okay? I really don't. I'll try my best. It's just that this must have been something big for this to happen. That's what's poking at me. I don't get it, you know? Just, yeah. I felt so pressured by him constantly bugging me about it that I decided to show him the entire conversation I had with DQ. I sent him the screenshots in the Google document and gave some explanations saying I felt very upset. Which was true, by the way. I mean, I had lost possibly my closest friend online and one of the only friends I've met in real life numerous times. Obviously this hurt me a lot and I didn't know how to react. And then the conversation goes as follows. I have many questions. Words alone cannot describe how I feel at the moment. It's a lot to process, man. First question, no, I get that. But I will tell you this, dude, and I cannot make this more clear, I do not have nefarious intentions. What were you thinking, man? It's kind of hard to see how you don't have nefarious intentions when trying to not only come up with, but justify you circumventing the age of consent laws. Who does that? Genuinely. Just, that's hard, dude. I can't look past that. That part just jumps out at me. Can I answer? And the render thing. Can I answer? I'm not quite done yet, no. That render thing too. What was that? My question to you. What were you thinking? Talking about having sex, my dude? Really? Genuinely. What compelled you to do this? Did it not occur to you at one point, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. This is meant to be for a real person. Nothing? You never had that thought the once? Can I respond or answer now and explain? Go ahead now, as long as it's not the same spiel of justifying such depraved behavior. I then decided to answer to Red Kitsune, trying my best to explain my point of view. Red Kitsune then responds to my message by quite literally trying to drag my current girlfriend, Gracie, into this. I can't help but get really concerned when seeing all of this, especially considering that your current girlfriend is also a minor. Even if she will be 18 in a few months, I'm talking about now, not then. Very ironic considering you swore to never date a minor after Cinna. You said it on Blue Sky a few months ago. That troubles me quite a bit. I know you're seeking help for that, but yeah, it's still very concerning for me nonetheless. It's a side of you I have not seen before, and quite frankly, I don't know if I'll be able to look at you in the same light anymore. Quite disheartening. I get your perspective. You have understandable reasons to be concerned. Me and Galifus have been together for 7 months with no major issues though, which is a drastic difference with the Cinna situation. I understand you're also shocked. I don't blame you, but I want to make this loud and clear. I look at my old self with shame, not with pride. Like I said before, I do not justify my actions, but the fact I was manipulated on a lot of things is true. This isn't a lie, man. I wouldn't make up shit like this. My question I have to you now is, what do you want me to do? I've gotten help, taken responsibility, and I've changed. These events occurred 2 years ago, and a reminder, when my relation with Cinna started, I too was a minor. So my question is, what do you think I should do then? I'm not asking this in a rude way, but genuine and honest. I do not know what to do. I sought help and I understand now where I fucked up. That's the thing. I cannot go back in the past and change things. As much as I would want to, I cannot. I genuinely cannot, even if I wish I could. I understand that. Yes, I'm not asking you to change your past. Know that now. I'm just telling you that this is highly concerning. This isn't just a simple little, oopsie, I said something I didn't mean, I'm sorry, over a fight concerning a trivial matter. This is a real problem, a grave problem, involving real people, real actions, and real consequences. This is not a minor offenses. There are places in the world where you could face a very harsh sentence for such actions, and you know what I mean by that. Capital punishment. And that's not to say I wish harm upon you either. I'm not that kind of guy, so don't get my words twisted. I'm not telling you to do anything, I'm just telling you how worrying this is. The affairs of you and Galifus are none of my concern, of course, but considering her age and all of this coming to light is very worrying. I'm not saying you're going to go back to your old ways either. I am not one to command you. I can only give my 2 cents on the matter and this is it. Gracie even felt annoyed that Red Kitsune was trying to drag her into this, so she asked me to give him a message from her. He did not reply and instead has said he will resign as keykeeper and leave the staff team. I was trying my absolute best to be considering of Red Kitsune's emotions and thoughts, as we agreed on how the announcement would be conducted. After this conversation, Red Kitsune left the staff team, and eventually left my community as well. I informed Moustache because he's been a long-time friend and I asked his thoughts on the matter. I also had his thought regarding Red Kitsune, and he said how he understood Red Kitsune's perspective, but regarding DQ, it's clear it was biased. After telling all of what happened with Gracie, she was pretty upset this occurred, and she advised me to block DQ following what happened. So the next day, I decided to send one final message to him and blocked him. The next day, that's when Lavin sends a friend request to Moustache. Here's when the conversation that occurs between them. Hi, what's up friend? Well first hello, we haven't spoken in a while. And second, I've seen what Bryce has said and I have came with evidence to prove myself. Yeah, no worries. Hearing both sides of the story usually helps, so I wouldn't mind. I'm busy throughout the day though, so if I'm late responding, I don't know, I just need to get stuff through. I've shown Kitsune and DQ, is why they both reacted negatively. This is literally indirect child pornography. This is legal in France, by the way. Corruption de mineurs en France. Yep, he sent it to both me and another friend. There was one message stating I shouldn't tell her, meaning he did not ask for permission for it to be shared beforehand. Well, context, he sent me the pictures before he said this, so really I didn't agree to be sent these, really. This is the charges he could potentially face if this ever got out, but no one has been brave enough to actually call authorities, I guess. Well, I remember her asking just for a model, without, but I'm not sure. The thing concerns me is how he is sharing this without her consent. Who did he share the pictures of the model to? Was it just you? I'm pretty sure too, but I'm not 100% sure. May have some questions about it later, because right now I'm working on a case competition for uni, but sorry if I don't look like I'm interested. I'm just hella competitive when it comes to this. Again, thank you for showing me. It's fine. I don't know if I'll be awake by then. No problem. No worries, take your time. I told too, by the way. And yeah, well, we used to be good friends, so I thought he deserved to know. Good luck with the comp, by the way. Appreciate it. After a few days, Gracie decided to send a message to Red Kitsune on her own accord, in which I only fixed grammar. This was because she didn't like the fact she was dragged into this. Hi, I do know that you tried to pull me into the spiteful drama situation via DMs with Bryce, but please understand that I want no involvement in this shit. And if you think the relationship is the same as the one he had with Cinna, it is not. It is fully mutual, consensual, and I want it. The thing about minors, just know the age gap is smaller than the one he had with Cinna, and we are both over the age of consent. Unlike the relationship with Cinna, who was manipulated and coerced him into a relationship, he asked me and I accepted a few days after careful consideration of my feelings. On the next morning, she got this response. I fully understand that, yes, but I will clear up some stuff for you. You have to understand that, given what was shown to me, naturally I got concerned with his actions, especially since he's a legal adult dating you, a minor. I'm not going to get into the age of consent laws, too convoluted for me and quite frankly, I don't care enough to investigate them. From my POV, I would much rather play things safe and date someone or more around my age, or who's at the very least legal. I stuck by what I know, and applying what I saw to that is where I got my concern. If you're in a happy relationship and he hasn't done anything to harm you, then great, more power to you. My main issue, however, is that I did not try to get you involved, as you say. I'm not sure what he told you, but that was simply not the case. All I did was express my worries, which is an opinion. There's a difference between expressing an opinion and actively trying to get someone involved, or directly prying into another's affairs. I only did the former. Not once did I ever try to investigate on my own, or actively meddle with you too, and not once did I ever tell him to reach out to you and send me that message, nor did I make any attempt to imply it. Getting you involved falls on him. Quite frankly, it actually bugged me that he did that. Our little spat was between us and us alone. That's why as soon as I saw that he had a message from you, I didn't bother to entertain further talks and shut it down. Regardless of whether you were involved or not, by that point I was too frustrated and disappointed in him to even continue. I shut it down for my sake and because I knew if I kept up, it would have gotten worse. That's all I have to say for now. That's my 2 cents on the matter. Obviously, Gracie and I were pretty mad that he was essentially doubling down, because while he was claiming not to involve her, which I know was a lie because of what I'll explain in a bit, he also tried to claim that I was the one who implicated him, when all that happened was her wanting to say something to him. I would have rather not been mentioned in the first place and I sent that message because I wanted to, not because Bryce told me to, and I would rather not be further mentioned. Thanks. You need not worry about that. We are not on speaking terms at the moment. For now, him and I are done with each other. As part of this was going on, my friend Moustache decided to reach out to Lavin again, asking her about why she brought this all up again. Hey, I do have a quick question about the situation. Sorry if I'm messaging late for you. I've just been hella busy throughout these days. Don't take the question as me defending Lull, what he did was fucked up. More or less curious. But I noticed that this situation looks like it happened around 1 or 2 years ago. Considering the date of the messages this screenshot was taken, and the model that Bryce made was of Cinna, which she did around 2023 I believe, so I was wondering if the situation is still an ongoing issue after Cinna, and if it's been that long, then why is it only being brought up now? To which she simply responds, Kitsune and DQ brought up some stuff about his current relationship, and yeah. What happened in his current relationship? Last time I talked with them it seemed pretty healthy from what I presume so. She dodged the fucking question. I don't want to get in detail right now, I'm kinda tired, but there were some race concerns. Oh yeah, no worry, take all the time you need, don't make it feel like I'm forcing everything out of you. After showing Gracie these messages, this is what she had to say. Okay, excuse me, no that's not, just no, the fuck? What would they know? I don't know. I'm very cross. It's bullshit. Lavin could be faking this, because we never said anything about anything stuff to them. I need to clarify to him. Don't, in my opinion, just Red Kitsune was meant to betray anyways. It doesn't surprise me one bit. No, I want to because I will not have them discussing me or our relationship. They involved me first. You didn't do it first at all. She then told me she sent the following to Red Kitsune. I wasn't talking about Bryce, I meant Lavin, DQ and whoever else is involved, because talking about someone or their relationship behind their back when they don't feel comfortable with it is wrong and immoral. For your information, I'm doing this of my own volition. I never discussed a relationship you two had with anyone. Expressing my concern was of my own accord. Their opinions are their own as well. What they say is none of my concern either. The only things I know about your relationship are what Respond himself decided to share with me. I don't know if that's cool with you or if he discussed it with you first, but that's what he did. My concern never went beyond your age and that was it. I don't pry in your affairs. The only time I was ever told of your things was by him, and I never asked him those times either. In this aspect, I only expressed a simple opinion. If it's one that you're personally not cool with, that's fine, you don't have to agree with me. Whether or not you're doing this on your own or on behalf of him is none of my concern. He's not someone I wish to speak to for the time being. I was very disheartened by what happened, and I need a break from him. On my end, I felt pretty annoyed that Red Kitsune was trying to lie and that Gracie felt very pressured by what Red Kitsune was saying or doing. This resulted in me then blocking Red Kitsune after sending him a message. For a while, we mostly moved on from the situation. Since everything died down, that is when the staff and I reappointed Moustache as key keeper. During that time, I was mostly busy in real life with driving lessons, preparing for Christmas, and dealing with personal circumstances in real life. My community was growing and things felt peaceful for the time. Christmas happened and I failed my driving exam in December. I see for the paperwork to have my allowance, etc. That is also around the same time that I left the CISAD, since I turned 20 in September, meaning I will instead go to its equivalent for people above 20 years. A former close friend of mine informed me that they were reached out by someone relatively close to Lavin and DQ, saying certain things about me. As I tried to clarify, things went alright, up until the head of that one project I mentioned earlier, which Lavin and DQ were also in, decided to say some things as well. So my former friend doubted me more. I clarified once again, but a few days later, I would randomly be unfriended and messages were being deleted. This prompted me to release ban logs public about DQ, Lavin, Red Kitsune, and that other person, who I won't mention and have censored to not implicate them further. On January 16th, Axel, who I reconciled for over a year or two by now, has asked to join back my community. something I agreed to because we were relatively chill and it's been a while since the events happened. I noticed that Axel unfriended me on his alt, but I didn't question him much for the time. For a few days, nothing out of the ordinary occurred, but on January 19th, as I was about to go to bed, I get notified by a friend of mine of a message that he received. Yo, Resp, who in the giggity? You're in Respin's server, and I need you to know that he made a 3D model of a 14-year-old naked and was actively talking sexually about her. I then checked my server and realized Axel, on his main account, spammed the general chat with this link. The document was essentially the same one as the one from 2023, along with screenshots about the model and the sexual talks. Several people DM'd me further about it, most of which were completely uninvolved with this query. Here are some other examples. Hello. Hi. What's up? Well, someone making slanderous claims again, so had to lock the community down. That's what alerted me, and unfortunately the reason I'm messaging you. Yeah, no, I get it, don't worry. Sorry I haven't messaged you in such a long time. This came up on my radar after this dude randomly messaged me with an exposed document. As I expected, there's not a single message ID or confirmation that these screenshots actually exist. It sucks that this is how I'm coming to you after several months of total silence, but this was quite alarming. Hey, by any chance, did some person DM you last night or? Yeah, actually, they added me, I accepted. They sent random shit, I unfriended them. The dude spammed his document or whatever to as many people as possible in my community. It's ridiculously childish. Yeah, he sent the document link 5 times to me before I unfriended him. What was the document anyway? Some document exposing me about the Cinna situation from back then, but leaving out a lot of context and essential information. Oh bruh. Hey, I don't know if you saw the announcement, but I'm not sure if someone attempted to DM you. If that happened, just know I plan to make a response to the situation. So please do be patient and wait for my response before jumping to any conclusions. Thanks for understanding. Yeah, I did get a DM before the announcement. I'll make sure to stay notified. Thanks. No problem. Thanks for understanding. Of course. The response will be a video on my secondary channel, by the way, just so you know. Okay, thank you. Especially when half of this shit is twisted narrative that's been blown out of context, and when said document is a recycled 2023 document with added more stuff from people's input. But yeah, my video will aim to be honest and give my perspective fully, so make sure to get popcorn. Okay, just kidding. I shouldn't be joking too much with this though, but yeah. Yeah, like I saw the doc and it was like, isn't most of this already old? Plus, these aren't really full convos, they're just some specific messages. But one of the person that got DM'd had a different approach, and was someone who was still close to DQ and others. Well. Care to explain? I'm honestly sick to my stomach. If you mean the one Google Doc Axel sent to people on DM, I do plan making a general response, so you'll be able to see my side of things there. I therefore ask for your patience and get both sides of the story. It's not the first time I get the story. I've heard from 3 or 4 people already. This still stands regardless. I don't see how you can get a response because of all the proof I've seen is really inexcusable. And from what I've seen in response of this, you've been instead censoring the ones who denounce you instead. Friends of mine even. I will say this one more time, wait for my response. Like you saw, I tried my absolute best to ask them to wait for my response because it would give a lot of clarifications, but they still were hostile towards me regardless. On the next day, that person's friend sent an Epstein gif in a group chat and left. This followed with a person to also leave the group chat and my community. This was also a bit ironic, by the way, given that this person said they would inform me if anything occurred back then. I was pretty annoyed that all of this was happening because this was around the same time that I was retaking my driver's exam. And to my surprise, I succeeded despite the stress of the situation. This document by Axel was also the reason that I decided to issue this entire response, because my community got mass DM'd about this, and I wanted to put everything to rest with all the facts I could give. Now that I laid out all the facts and what happened from my perspective, I'm going to respond to everything and provide as much clarifications as I can. And trust me, I will not hold back. All the way back then, I have asked my health professionals and law enforcement about this whole Cinna situation, where they both confirm how I'm neither a groomer nor a pedophile. In the specialized accompanyship plan, it further elaborates on how I could have been clumsy on certain things due to lack of education on the subject, and that the health professionals intervened to clarify certain points with me. Below is an extract of the accompanyship plan, along with a rough translation next to it. Over time, I would be accompanied by said health professionals to improve as a person, move on from this, and externalize more. Because I felt very isolated after all of this. I have since learned to get back on track and to be a better person. I'm obviously not perfect, and anyone can see that very easily, but it's also clearly visible that I have done my absolute best to change and improve as a person. Ever since the situation, I have had a strict policy of blocking minors who try to engage sexually with me. I have also banned sexual talks in my community following discussions with my staff team. But now, when it comes to Lavin, there are several issues in her bringing up things like the model in the first place. For example, why would she act positively about it and even say it was a good thing I did for the model? She herself literally said, "I think it was a great thing you did." Reminder, by the way, that the model was literally for anatomy. I was never going to make anything pornographic with it, just to learn anatomy better and put clothes on after. I'm not saying this is a justification, by the way. But this is already a lot of context to begin with. Like I said many times, Cinna was the one who initiated a lot of the sexual talks. And when you're manipulated in a relationship, you obviously don't realize it. Anyone claiming that I was the one pursuing most of the sexual talks is very misguided, because there is a lot of evidence that clearly shows Cinna was the one initiating, and sometimes even coercing, sexual things upon me. Same with the fact this other person who Lavin said I send a model to also criticized the same when they themselves made an NSFW sketch of my and Cinna's characters. And that's not all, because Lavin is forgetting one very essential detail to all of this. See, one thing that's been bugging me since the start is how Lavin brought all of this up right after I blocked her, which, okay, there's some fair criticism about making the model, sharing it, or sexual talks. These are fair concerns. However, there is one problem with all of this. Lavin is still with Mexi to this day. She constantly defended his actions with excuses that simply do not work. Just Mexi's response to forcing Cinna to send nudes alone is damning enough and far worse than I have ever done. No one in their right mind can justify it with, oh hey, she's wishing torture on someone. I should torture her by forcing her to send nudes. Lavin's excuse for defending him was that he tried to get her away with those things because she would suicide bait him into staying. What I saw was a guy getting his brother to manipulate her to be with him, later on to claim that she confessed to him in the first place. All of this screams red flags, and with the evidence I provided earlier about Mexi, there's not a single way to defend this. So I want to ask those people, aka Lavin, DQ, Red Kitsune, etc. Why the double standard? Especially when Lavin literally told me before that she's a liar. She admits to it herself. So how can you trust her words, especially since she's dating a literal nunce? If we go by Lavin's logic that Mexi's supposedly a victim of Cinna's manipulation, why would it only apply to him and it somehow magically wouldn't apply to me? It does not make sense at all. I don't disagree that I can be criticized for my past, but my story is arguably a lot more consistent and honest than the one that Mexi and Lavin try to portray. Even if Mexi was actually 15, that would mean that in the screenshot, Mexi would be 17 and engaging with sexual talks with Lavin, who was 19 at the time. By that logic, wouldn't Lavin's argument be even more hypocritical? I'm obviously not accusing Lavin of being a groomer or whatever, but the irony only proves this was done out of sheer pettiness. One of the things I wouldn't be surprised is that Mexi ended up grooming Lavin to be with him again. And because Lavin was vulnerable and had no one to talk to, she went on to be back with Mexi because of that. But also, because she had friends in that one project, she didn't want to leave due to how close she was to those people. Lavin repeatedly claimed before that things were my fault, but then went on to say the full opposite months later. Again, let me ask this. Why backpedal on that like this? Nothing adds up. And judging from how close Lavin and DQ were, it only makes sense that DQ was going to trust Lavin more. I mean, Lavin literally drew shipping art of her character and him, which even then I found pretty weird. DQ out of context moment. I didn't finish yet. Well, fuck you. No, that's only for Lavender. Woman. They're both being needy. Unironically. I see. I don't know if that's inappropriate, but that's basically what it is. One wants to call for hours per day, the other wants to have cuddles before sleep. Let me guess. Lavin and in that order. Yep. I mean, it is nice. I enjoy it too, but it is still a lot of social energy. Something that is even more weird is that DQ downright admitted they slept on call. No wonder they would be so close then. Heck, even Red Kitsune is close to Lavin in a way, by drawing her OC not once but twice within less than a year. By the way, the fact Red Kitsune was speaking behind my back wasn't new, because he admitted to giving information to Axel at the time in the 2023 document. And if we want to be petty, if I wanted to, I could also be petty about the fact Lavin literally screenshotted my face without my consent and laughed at me, as she asked to DQ to pet me in a train, when I indicated many times I wasn't comfortable with that, but she wouldn't even take accountability. If we go on about the concerns of Gracie, I could very well also pull up the fact that Lavin suggested the idea of artificial insemination. When I asked how would Galaphis and Respin have children, wouldn't I? I could go on so much about the issues of other people as well. Like Axel saying he can say the N-word just because he has one black ancestor while being clearly white-skinned. Or even Red Kitsune potentially being into lolicon due to the sketchy things he retweets or is into. My general point here is that this was not done out of genuine concerns for my girlfriend, because she wasn't DM'd by any of those people to begin with, but out of pure spite. It is visible from a mile away due to Lavin's hypocrisy. And speaking of my girlfriend, she actually has something to say.
Hello, I'm not the type of person to get involved in drama, so when I am used as an excuse to make accusations rooted from petty reasons and spite, I find it disgusting, as this whole thing is a stupid excuse to make Bryce, who is kind, thoughtful, and good-hearted, seem like a bad guy, which he is not. I do not appreciate being dragged into this mess, especially when I explicitly do not want to be involved whatsoever. And, by the way, If this is based on concerns for me specifically, why has no one tried to reach out and quote unquote help me? Because if I was the actual reason why, they would have done something, right? But they haven't. So it's not about grooming or pedophilia, it's about petty revenge from those who cannot see reason. That's all that needs to be said from me. Thank you.
Additionally, I wasn't the only one affected by the things Cinna did, because reaching out to Rubik, he also has something to say.
Cinnamon has not only hurt Rasputin, but she's also hurt me as well. She found out I was 10 years old on August 9th, 2022, and on April 16th, 2023, she sent me porn knowing I was 10 years old, as this was before my 11th birthday. She also talked about how horny she was, and she also offered to help me find porn for when I was older. She also guilt-tripped me when she got into arguments with her other server members, and she would force me to take her side. All of this is still affecting me to this day, almost 3 years later.
I believe that summarizes the whole situation. The evidence I've shown speaks for itself. The emotional abuse and the power imbalance I experienced with Cinna had a lasting impact on my mental health and my development as a person. I describe what happened to me as grooming because it is the only accurate way to label the control and emotional manipulation Cinna exercised over me, especially since grooming is defined by a power dynamic rather than just an age gap. I was and still am easily manipulated by people. While I have done things that people can rightfully hold me accountable for, I acknowledge those mistakes and have worked consistently to become a better person. 94% of the relationship with Cinna was when I was still a minor. The transition into legal adulthood doesn't erase the vulnerability I was in at the time, a reality I still address with professional support to this day. This video would have never been made should this whole matter have been left to rest, as I sought help from health professionals to improve. But I know that no matter what I do, it will never satisfy everyone in the end. It is clear that this was all brought up again out of pure spite and pity. I also know this response will not satisfy everyone. It never will, but I can at least provide the truth and honesty to this situation. Something that others clearly do not do because they only show one biased perspective. And I know that they're going to try to pull up more things over and over just to try to make me look worse. But it doesn't exonerate the main facts that I have outlined in this video. They're probably not even going to watch this video. They're likely just going to say the same things over and over again. To anyone in my community who's disappointed in me, I hear you. To this day, I feel disappointed in my past because I know some of the things I did aren't excusable, even if I was a victim of Cinna's manipulation. If anyone no longer wishes to associate with me following this video, they are in their valid rights to do so. While I believe I have put enough effort to change as a person and learn from this whole situation, I will not force anyone to stay in my community if they clearly do not believe it is right for them to do so. My only request for those who do so is to at least be mature about it and to try to end on a cordial, respectful note privately. And for the record, no, I'm not trying to silence anyone about it. I'm just simply not trying to look for drama. I do, however, have a message to both Lavin and Axel, if they are watching this. To Lavin, some of the concerns you had were legitimate, and I don't deny that I have made clear mistakes and wronged you in the past, which is something I apologize for. However, it is clear that you only brought up those things in the past out of mere pity, and the fact that you defend someone far worse than me all because of your emotional attachment to him goes to prove my point. I don't talk about you at all these days, and I even said in my ban back then that I simply wanted the same courtesy applied. You instead doubled down, took people I considered as close friends away from me, and essentially tried to paint me as the devil himself. If anything, what you did was no better than what I did with Mexi, except I show honesty and have genuine arguments, something that he will, to my knowledge, never have. As for Axel, you have harassed me quite a lot back then with the situation, going on a common server repeatedly trying to speak to me and even using other people to harass me as well, while even pressuring them behind the scenes. Even if you have valid reasons not to want to associate with me anymore, I found it quite immature that your best method of justice was to dox my full name back then, since I made it private when I made the rest of my identity. And, recently, harass people completely uninvolved with the situation. Going after me is one thing, but going out to harass innocent members of my community by spamming them in DMs is not just immature, it is on its own ridiculous. Not to mention, you literally doxed Cinna's parents' name in the document, not once back then, but twice. The fact you forgot to censor it a second time shows how little effort you put in your little document. Finally, to both of you, my request is to leave me alone. Going forward, any form of extreme harassment or defamation about this matter will lead to legal action being taken, in order to protect me and my community, especially given that even law enforcement has confirmed that I was in fact manipulating the relationship with Cinna, and that I am not a pedophile. I'm obviously not going to take legal action against those who just go like, oh hey, Respin's a groomer, Respin's a pedo. But I will take action on those who try to twist the story repeatedly in a way to harass me or my community. That should be all. Now that this response is finally done, I will continue making content and working my own personal projects. and my community will be open again, just with stricter verification. Thank you all for taking the time to listen. Over and out.